spin to win, and a Molyneux masterclass got the Renegades season rolling.
Oh, that is a towering blow. Magnificent shot.
Yastika Bhatia snubbed jet lag to lead her new club to victory.
Shot. And there's a wonderful half century.
And the Scorchers, well, they just keep finding a way to win at the WACA.
There's 5.
It's everything Big Bash. This is The Surge. And welcome to another edition of The Surge. Adam White and Kirby Short with you. I'm in the studio. Kirby is down in Tasmania because the WBBL, it never stops. Kirby, welcome back. And just saying, we're meant to be seeing things settling down, but they're doing the absolute opposite at the moment.
They are ramping up, Whitey. Thank you very much for having me again. Yeah, the merry-go-round is absolutely spinning, and we looked at these lists before the season started and it looked like it would be close, and the results are telling us it absolutely will be. 6
teams with 2 wins.
And we've got 2 Melbourne teams in the top 4 at the moment, which we haven't seen for a little while. Wonder whether they can hang on. The Strikers, they're defending back-to-back titles, going for a three-peat, and they're probably battling a little bit, so much left to happen in this competition.
No, it's really exciting as we get straight into the power play on The Surge, which is the headlines of the week that's been in WBBL. And the Renegades are a real talking point. And I think, a team that has been disappointing over the last few years seem to have got their act together. We know they've got an exciting list. And Simon Helmet's certainly believing. Let's have a listen to Simon Helmet addressing his group, courtesy of the Renegades social media team. This is fascinating listening.
Girls, it's been a couple of years since we've had a win like that, and with a win like that comes belief. So we have this opportunity now, all right? We're in here to win the competition. So with that comes belief. You've got to have that belief. It becomes infectious, I'll tell you. So now everything we do is we believe, right? Okay, this is a momentous occasion for this team over the last couple of years. So now we need to use this momentum. We're playing the right way. People are standing up. So now's our chance. Is that fair? Corey, is that fair?
Yeah.
Now we have this belief in this group. We're expecting to win every single game. Right, we're not here just to be part of it now. We're now to be fair dinkum. Right, we've won 2 excellent games on the trot. We're playing some excellent cricket. But most importantly, we're playing the right way. Well done today. Absolutely fantastic.
So there you go, Simon Helmet there. He's telling the players to believe. The senior players certainly believe. Do you believe in the team in red?
I tell you what, they've given us pretty good reason to believe, haven't they? 2 really good wins at home. They really struggled to get any wins on the board last season. Career best figures for Sophie Molyneux on the Saturday. They ran down 140, and you start to see a Matthews and a Webb contributing at the top of the order. Then you've got that final ball thriller against the Strikers. Sophie Molyneux, 64 from 32 deliveries in that game. So if you talk about evidence-based decision-making and whether you believe or not, I tell you what, there's some compelling performances across the group that make you think you can.
I mean, when you look at that team, they should be competing, shouldn't they? I mean, they've got a lot of talent.
There's so many good ingredients. We talked about that previously, Whitey. There's so many elements that look really great. They hadn't got it together until the weekend. And to Helmo's point, you have to have the belief that you can and make winning a habit. I think it's interesting that until maybe you have reasons to think that it's actually true rather than it being a bit of a hypothetical, and maybe those 2 performances from the weekend potentially give them that belief.
And I love the fact that Simon's actually embracing it. He's sensing it from the senior players, and rather than sort of, trying to keep a lid on it, he's telling the players, no, embrace it, enjoy it, and I guess enjoy the expectation rising.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting for that group, and he's such an energetic vibe, Simon Helmet. The girls talk about him in the dugout as always being the loudest voice, and I think you can't help but get around his enthusiasm. And it's nice when your coach is pointing out a couple of people and saying, hey, you are good enough, we are good enough, and we need to believe that we can get this job done.
We've seen the Scorchers play really well again at home. Beth Mooney making runs, Alana King taking wickets. We'll talk about Alana a little bit later on in the program. But this whole home ground advantage they've got at the WACA, is it real, and is it more a mental challenge for the opposition, or is it just that the Scorchers just know how to play the WACA?
Yeah, you wonder when teams in any sport make their home ground a bit of a fortress, and you wonder whether it's sort of all the talk in the background or it's actually performances. And interestingly, I think in the first 2 at home for the Scorchers, they've found a way to defend totals that maybe looked like it was unders. that sort of exuberance of youth in Chloe Ainsworth after the first one. She basically said, we don't mind what the number is, we'll just defend it. And I think that confidence with someone who's going to have the new ball in hand, coupled with, to your point, an Alana King who's ripping leggies at the moment, a masterclass here and there from Beth Mooney, and then still some domestic players that maybe haven't yet found their rhythm, but once they do, that just bolsters that other talent. So is it a myth or is it real? Not quite sure yet. A couple of games potentially says it's a tough place to go and play cricket.
Well, the men proved it was very much a fortress. It looks like the women might be doing the same. Okay, what about the Melbourne Stars? Now, Kim Garth is our special guest. She's coming in to chat to us today from the Melbourne Stars. She's been around for a long time now, so it's going to be fascinating to get her insights into the Melbourne Stars season and also just generally about the competition. But I'm just interested about them at the top with what they've got now. They've got Yastika Bhatia and also Ines McKeon, who look like a really strong opening combination that can kind of set the tone for the rest of the innings. Are you a bit of a believer in what the Stars are doing with their batting at the top?
Yeah, I love what that looks like, and how can we not mention Meg Lanning at 3 as well?
You probably should mention Meg.
Those resources at your disposal. I love that Yastika Bhatia flew over, got off the plane, and she was straight into this competition, really excited to be a part of it. She hit them beautifully on the weekend, another knock, 57 from 46 from her, and that really set up a quite clinical chase from the Stars, to be honest. And then you start to look through their lineup. We haven't talked about Annabelle Sutherland. Marizanne Kapp, she's bumped all the way down the order. Reece McKenna, she out-batted Meg Lanning the other day at North Sydney Oval. So you'll run out of time to talk about all the names, but it's really nice that they have that combination of an international and an up-and-comer. I think there is a challenge in that, though, because they're both new to this competition and new to the team, and we also know how important and powerful those opening partnerships can be. So we've seen some really great individual performances. It'll be interesting to see if that remains their opening combination, how those two can start to learn each other's games and work together a little bit, because they haven't had a really big partnership yet.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talk to Kim about just that whole leadership space with Annabelle Sutherland taking over. We've seen what Will's been able to do, her brother, for Victoria, and he's made such a strong impression as a young captain, and looks like Annabelle's doing similar things with the Stars. So it'll be great to talk to Kim about that when she joins us shortly. But before we go to a break and bring Kim in, what about the strikers? So they're 1-3 after 4 matches. They're going for a three-peat. When do the warning lights start going on and the sirens start wailing?
It's a really great question, Whitey. I think it's close, but they're not there yet. I think the learning from Talia McGrath as their skipper and the composure that she has, Luke Williams, their coach, he's now coaching all across the world in different franchises. There's enough experience in that group. Likewise with Megan Shute, not the skipper per se, but certainly a spiritual leader, you would say, of the Adelaide Strikers. I think there's so much composure and understanding in tournament cricket. I think they'll be a little bit nervous. I really hope for their sake they don't look back at that final ball thriller against the Renegades and think, that was one that we probably needed to win, when they're looking sort of 7 or 8 games into this 10-game season that we have. They're teetering on the edge at the moment, and they'll really want to grab that next win when I think they've got the Heat next, Whitey. So that will be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, for both teams. They both might need a win there. All right, just a reminder also for everyone that is listening or watching this program, The Surge, this week, BKT Big Bash tipping competition. It's still there. It's still available. Download the Big Bash app to enter, where you can win $1,000 a week and an overall cash prize of $10,000. But I'm really keen to get Kim Garth into the studio. She's played for Ireland at 14. She's played for Australia now for a long time as well. And she's a star of the Melbourne Stars. She'll be with us next on The Surge.
Gone! Brilliant bowling, Kim Garth. And the Stars are on top early.
Yes, Kim Garth is making a habit of taking some big wickets to start the new WBBL season, and she joins us in the studio on The Surge. Kim, welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
You have started pretty well. You had some big moments already.
Yeah, I think it's really pleasing to see how we're going as a group. Obviously, we had a really disappointing year last year, but I think, especially with a shortened competition, it's really important to start well, and 2 from 3 will certainly take that.
It's a good start for the team, and it's a good start for you as well. I want to ask firstly, how's the body? Because You've had a bit of a frustrating time of it of late. Are you going into this new season now 100% fit?
Yeah, I am. Obviously a bit frustrating at the back end of the 100, kind of picked up a niggle, which is kind of hung around a bit longer than I would have liked. But yeah, and I suppose with that as well, it's my left knee, so my front leg when I'm bowling. So just kind of trying to work around that and just get back to how it was pre-injury. Has been a little bit of a struggle, but I feel pretty good at the moment, and ready for a big season, I hope.
I'm going to get Kirby to ask you a question shortly, but just one final one. Sort of, there's that motivation with the Stars, haven't perhaps fired on all cylinders in recent years, but even for you personally, with the frustration with the knee, the World Cup situation, missing out on playing those matches, have you got a little bit of extra sort of motivation to have a big summer and make a bit of a statement as well?
I think so. To be fair, I don't think anyone ever really needs any motivation to try and win. But look, I feel like we've promised over the last few years and haven't really delivered. Whereas this year, I feel like, first of all, our list is probably better than before. But we've obviously put in some really good performances as well, which is really pleasing. So look, we know that the history of the Melbourne Stars and in that there is no silverware there just yet. But look, really looking forward to the rest of the year and hopefully some form of silverware.
Kimmy G, what do you think is the difference? You talk about it hasn't quite come off the way that you wanted to just yet for the Stars. What feels good about this season?
Yeah, good question. I think I feel like we just have probably a little bit more depth in our list. I think we recruited really well this year. I think we got the draft pretty much bang on how we wanted it, which is always pretty important to coming into the season. But yeah, look, I as I said, just so much depth. We've so many options with the ball. Really good pace attack. We've got the slow left arm. We've got off spinners. We've got leg spinners. Kind of cover all bases with our bowling attack. And then with the batting, we saw Reece McKenna. I don't know what number she batted the other night, 6 or 7, but to come in and do that was like pretty special. And then to still have, I think Tess batted behind her. Cappy only faced one ball. So we bat deep. We've got a lot of options with the ball. And just a well-rounded unit, I would say, more so than ever this year.
Pros and cons of that create some interesting challenges for your new skipper, Belzy. How is she handling that decision-making process?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's like, it's obviously good to have options, but almost sometimes there might even be too many options for her. We saw Sophie Day the other night against the Hurricanes, only bowled 1 over. And someone who has done so well for us last year, it's kind of like so many options, just about when the right time to use those options is. But everyone who knows Annabelle knows that she's so prepared and so meticulous in her preparation, both with her physical skills and then her tactical side of things as well. So she's doing a really good job of it so far. And I think, she's only going to get better and better at it.
So Kirby, just on that, because I've got a question for both of you based on what we're talking about. What about from a playing point of view, when there are so many options, and you mentioned Sophie, and there's been other examples at the start of the tournament where players aren't bowling as many overs as what they would normally bowl, or perhaps not batting as high and getting the opportunity as they would like. What's that like as a player to sort of sometimes know it might not be your day, not necessarily with you doing anything wrong?
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. It's frustrating at times. I mean, I only bowled 3 overs the other day, but at the same time, you don't have the right to bowl 4 overs either. I felt like I went pretty well, but kind of just the way the game panned out, different options were used. So it certainly can be frustrating, especially when you feel like you're going well, but at the end of the day, when you're winning, you can't really complain. I assume it's the same with the batters. We've got some real talent in that batting lineup, and they're not all getting hits. So it's certainly a good thing as long as we're winning, I think. But yeah, it's just, I guess, T20 cricket, it's so dynamic and changes so quickly. So you kind of just have to be ready at all times and kind of just, I guess, cop it on the chin if you don't get your turn. But yeah, I think that's the nature of cricket these days. So kind of just have to go with the flow, I think.
So Kirby, as a captain, as you were, a premiership captain, dual premiership captain, how do you manage that when you have so many options? Because I could imagine it's people managing as much as it is managing the tactics of the game.
Genuinely, Waddy, I think it's actually more about the human management than anything. And Kimmy G, I'm sure, can attest to that. It's interesting you talk about Soph. I think I admire how she came on, got 1 over, took 1 wicket and did her job. I think that's such a sort of a pin-up performance for what it is to play in a team and understand what your role is and how you can best contribute. And I think that's probably the biggest part of it, is if the people are prepared to, well, be clear on their role and what they're required to do, I think, but also understand that it may not be a 4-over opportunity in any given game. I think you enter it with a different mindset as well. And I think if you have that clarity before you go in, knowing that there are heaps of options, it's then really about, I think, the comms from captain and coach prior to make sure that everyone understands that that's the lay of the land, and it's not necessarily a reflection of a good or a bad performance as such, just that there are lots of different options to use. And I think if the mindset of the players is very much about how you make that contribution, I think that becomes pretty key too. And there's a genuine selflessness in that, because you've articulated it beautifully, Kim. Like, I think it's, the reality is you might not get to do all the things that you want to do, but can you maximise your contribution to the team?
Because you can't communicate before the game. Now, you're going to have 3 overs, you're going to have 2, you might get 4, because in T20 cricket it can change so much that you cannot, I would imagine, Kirby, as a captain, sort of over-promise and under-deliver at times if you start sort of saying beforehand, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that.
Sometimes it'd be nice just whip out the piece of paper and have the coach lay out your 20 overs. It'd take the mystery out of it and let me tell you some pretty tricky conversations as well with players during and post the game. But I think you're right, it's dynamic. You have to go with your gut on so many occasions. And when you're spoilt for choice, like Annabelle Sutherland is with the Stars, there'll be some difficult decisions that she has to make. And that's part of the blessing and curse of being a skipper, I think.
I wanted to ask you about Annabelle Sutherland. Just even about a week ago now at Junction Oval, when she walks out to bat like she just owns the place. The body language before she's even faced a ball. Her first scoring shot was a big 4 down the ground. The way she's moving the players in the field when she has to bowl, she just has this presence about her. For someone so young, I know she's captain, I know she plays for Australia, but it's quite striking to watch. What's it like to be part of her new leadership?
Yeah, it's really cool. As I said previously, Belzy, she's just very meticulous in everything she does. Incredibly prepared, hits a lot of balls, bowls a lot of balls. But also, like in any meeting you have, any sort of meeting with the analyst about plans and all that, you can tell she's done all her homework. She knows every player inside out, and I think it really shows on field, particularly with her leadership. She just knows what she wants to do, and she's incredible. I think we've obviously seen her flourish over the last year or two, and I'm just super excited to see kind of where she'd be in 3-4 years if she's already this good. And she's already owning everything she does, bat, ball, and in the field, and now with her leadership as well. I'm just, super excited to see, as I said, where she'd be in 2, 3, 4 years, even down the line, 6, 7 years. Same with a lot of these young players. But yeah, she does have a real presence about her, and it's very exciting for Belzy and also for Australian cricket, I think, as well.
Is there any Meg in her at all with the way she does things, and does she still lean on Meg from a captaincy point of view, or is it very much straight away it's her team, she's doing it her way?
It's a good question. I probably 3 games in, it's hard to tell, I think. She does still, like Meg is still good at contributing when she needs to contribute. But also Belzy likes to put her own spin on things as well, which is really cool. I think she's got a real good balance of seeing what Meg thinks on some things, but then just doing some things her own way as well, which is really cool. But one thing's for sure, when you go to Belzy and you're not sure, what do you think of this or what do you think of that, she'll always have an answer as to what she thinks. But similarly, if you think that, okay, no, this is really how I feel, she'll also back you in, which I think is really, really cool. And like for someone so young to be able to do that, and she's just very mature in her cricketing knowledge and brain and everything she does around cricket. Probably a bit of a mix, but I'm excited to see how the rest of it unfolds.
Before we get back to Kim, Kirby, I'm just interested on your thoughts on what you've seen from Annabelle as a captaincy specialist as you are. I mentioned that presence thing, which I felt was really quite noticeable through the first part of the season. What are you seeing? What are you liking?
Yeah, the presence is such an intangible thing, isn't it? But you can feel it. And I think with Annabelle, and it's actually a question I have for Kim when I bounce back to you, I'm curious about the evolution we've seen in her game personally, and then how that makes the timing right for her to transition into a more of a leadership role. I think the other thing that you sort of feel, she has that certainty about how she goes about her game and is almost ready to then start to make that contribution to others. I think the other key part of not just that sort of studious nature that you've alluded to with Annabelle, but I think also the temperament that she has that really exudes calm. We had Ines McKeon on the mic during one of the games on the weekend and spoke about how that sort of just permeates the group, that there is that level-headedness associated with Annabelle. And I have certainly noticed that, and that's not to be underestimated in a leader, particularly on a cricket field when things can get pretty real pretty quickly. But Kim, I would be keen to hear your perspective on that, almost the sort of timing, what you've seen in Annabelle's game, how that's evolved, and is the timing right, even though Meg is still around, for Belsy to be leading your group?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think probably over the last 18 months, I reckon Bells has probably really nailed her role in the Aussie side, which has probably given her a lot of confidence. Whatever number she bats, she's down at 7 or 8 a lot of the games, but she's absolutely nailed that. And every time she does get an opportunity up the order, she's nailed that as well. So I feel like as well, her batting has probably been spoken about a lot, but her bowling over the last little bit has been incredible. Just the way she's really owned that death roll stuff, and through the middle, she's just like, her execution is probably better than anyone I've ever seen. She nails her Yorkers, nails her slower balls. So I feel like she knows and owns her role very well in that Australian team, but also obviously had a bit more of a role with the bat last year for the Stars and Victoria over the years. And I think it was probably a natural evolution for her to be in that leadership role now as captain. I think, just as I said, like she's really owned everything she's done and kind of nailed all the roles that she's had to play over the last 12 months in particular. And so I think, probably with her having a bit more confidence in her own game, it's probably allowed her to kind of take that next step. And I think it's certainly a really good time for Belsy as well, particularly with Meg around and someone to lean on there. But as we spoke about, also being able to put her own spin on things.
Whitey, I tell you what, that's high praise coming from someone as crafty as Kim, with the control that she has to talk about how well Belsy's going far out.
Exactly right. Now, are you a veteran of this competition now?
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
I think you are.
Oh, I hope not. No, I don't. You're making me feel old now. I guess.
Well, this is what happens when you play for your country at 14, that you're only 26 and we're calling you a veteran.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I reckon I've probably played, because I've obviously played as a rookie with the Sixers and then had a few years off, played in the Scorchers, had another few years off. I kind of missed a few seasons. I reckon I've only played maybe 60 odd games. So when you look at some of the people who've played maybe 100 plus games, I don't think I'm quite a veteran just yet. I like to think not anyway.
So is your best still ahead of you, do you think?
I hope so. I think, I feel quite confident in kind of my improvement over the last 12 months, particularly since coming into that Australian setup. And probably my first year didn't play a whole heap, but had a bit more of a role, I guess more so in 50 over cricket and test match cricket over the last kind of 12 months. But I just from being in and around it and in the squad and traveling and training and getting a bit more game time, I feel like I have my skills have improved. So I'd like to think that with more time, I hope that will continue to improve. But I feel like I've got a really good understanding of my own game now and what I'm trying to do, and a lot more confident in what I'm trying to achieve. And just, knowing and nailing what I'm good at, as opposed to, a lot of stuff going on and trying to nail everything. But look, hopefully my best is still to come.
And you touched on the fact when you first started sort of as a rookie, you were one of those associate rookies or through the associate rookie system. We see how that's now travelling now. There's more and more players that are coming through. How proud are you of what's happened as a result of potentially what you started?
Look, I'm not sure it has much directly to do with me, but I just think it's so cool.
Will you show what's possible?
Yeah, potentially. I just think it's really cool at the moment, just seeing how many different countries are represented in the competition. I also am really pleased to see that the the girls from associate members can play as local players and not as international players. I think obviously the WPL, that's the case in the WPL and here in the WBBL as well, which I think that's a really cool thing. And then as well as that, I guess the likes of Orla Prendergast coming into the Adelaide Strikers and just doing that off her own bat. And, she had a really good summer back in Ireland, and just to be able for that to be recognised and teams not just looking at, the likes of players from India, South Africa, England, all the usual countries that you think about, but now looking beyond that and looking towards Ireland and the likes, I think, it's a really exciting time for women's cricket. And I think that shows in the most recent World Cup with, some of the results that people maybe didn't. I think a lot of people didn't think that New Zealand would come out and win that. And even the 4 semi-finalists, I think a lot of people potentially wouldn't have picked those semi-finalists. But, it's a really exciting time for women's cricket.
So, Kirby, as I throw back to you, she hasn't quite, Kim, lost the Irish accent, but she almost has because she's been out here for a decade playing.
Certainly. I just want to pull on that thread, Kim, a little bit more, because you've lived both dreams so uniquely. You've been one of those associate members in Ireland. You were a child playing for your country. You're now part of probably the most successful women's cricket team, if not cricket team full stop, that the world has seen for a very long time based on the longevity and consistency of your success. Why is it so important that there is this associate connection to the likes of the WPL and the WBBL? What does that do for the global game?
Speaking personally from experience, I feel like when I played for Ireland, it was like you'd play against, like, say, the top 5 or top 6 teams only really at World Cups or qualifying events if they were there. And you'd just look forward to a World Cup every 2 years, and then you play 4 games at the World Cup, and then you'd be like, okay, I've got to wait another 2 years till we play Australia and England. Whereas now, particularly with the Women's Championship being increased to 10 teams, and I think the next cycle is even 11 teams, stuff like that is really important because, you do get to, the likes of, I think, Zimbabwe are in it now. They'll get to play against England, for example, in a 3-match series, which, it's super exciting. And, it's just, I think the more these lower ranked countries can play against each other, I think the better. I've really gone on a tangent there. I apologise, but
I'm going to keep taking you down that tangent because we've just seen the Future Tours program released, and that then has a test match in a multi-format series against the West Indies, for example. How much does that excite you?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think the more test match cricket we can play, the better. But I think the fact that now also there are more teams playing test match cricket and it's not just 2 or 3 teams, it is also really exciting. And that future tours program that's just been released is, there's some really exciting things on the horizon, and a lot of multi-format series as well, which is really cool. All
right, Kirby, I want to ask a couple more questions before we take a bit of a break. The stadium opportunity that you're going to get to play your rivals, the Renegades, at the MCG. How significant is that in more changes to the WBBL to make it a better competition?
It's very exciting. Our game against the Renegades at the G last year was cut a bit short, which was disappointing. But I know all the girls love playing there, and it's a really exciting time for all players across both teams. But I think more generally speaking, just having games in stadiums is awesome to see. I think it's the way moving forward for women's cricket. I know in Australia, I think it's a bit harder because I feel like the stadiums are either kind of small, like you've got Junction Oval that can probably fit about 5,000 people, and the next kind of step up from that is Marvel and the G. Whereas I think when you go to England, even playing in the Ashes there last year, their stadiums tend to be a bit smaller, like you have stadiums for 10, 15, 20,000 people. So it's probably more equipped to women's cricket, those types of stadiums. But I also think at the same time, a couple of years down the line, I don't see why there's any reason that we can't fill the stadiums here. And I think Big Bash is a really good place to start that.
Is there a genuine rivalry between the Stars and the Renegades? Because you're in a situation different to, say, Kirby when she played for the Heat, where it's one team in the state of Queensland. You've got players that you are playing with when it comes to Victoria, and then all of a sudden you're playing against them. Is Is it an intense rivalry, a friendly rivalry? How would you describe it?
It's a good question. I think it's a friendly rivalry until game day. I think you see the girls around the gym. You see them, obviously, you still hang out with them in Big Bash. You see them a lot, and a lot of them, I'd be friends with a lot of the Renegades girls because obviously, Victorian program across 2 teams. But I think once it gets to game day, we really, really want to win. And since I've been playing for the Stars, we've generally had the better of the Renegades, which has been really pleasing, but I think the Renegades are really strong this year. So I think it's going to be actually a really, really good game.
It's exciting seeing 2 Melbourne teams sitting in the top 4. I know you talked about curbing expectations and being early days, but I think it's positioned beautifully for that clash. I'm keen to understand of your Victorian teammates who goes from being really friendly and loyal in the navy blue to just full 180 once they change into the red shirt.
It's a good question. I think, to be fair, I think everyone is quite competitive. I think...
Is there a chance you're at the top of the list?
I'd probably be up there, to be fair. I think in terms of the Renegades girls, like the likes of Soph Molyneux and Georgia Wareham, who have obviously been a Renegade since day one, I feel like they definitely obviously feel quite passionate about it. I'd probably put them up there. But honestly, I think everyone just want to win. Obviously it sounds pretty obvious, but it does game day. I'm actually intrigued to see now. It's making me excited for it. Everyone just wants to win. There's not too many niceties.
I've got one final question before we get to yes, no, wait. And it goes back to the start of the conversation around the Stars having a really strong list. But there is, I guess, a pressure of expectation that comes with that. And obviously the Stars haven't been the success that everyone at the Stars would have liked over a long period of time. How do you deal with that sort of pressure or that sort of, whether it be expectation or however you want to describe it, when you know you've got a good team now, that it could be now?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not something that gets spoken a lot about. I think just trying to stay, it's very cliche, but like present and focus on each game at a time. It hasn't really, and I'm happy it hasn't been spoken about, but it hasn't really been spoken about like, oh, look, we've got this really good team. Could this be the year? It's, just kind of about taking each game as it comes, to be honest. And I think when we lost to the Scorchers' first game of the year, it was like, oh no, not this again. Surely not. But we kind of managed to obviously turn it around the last couple of games. But obviously only 3 games in, so don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But I think come back to me in a few weeks and the pressure might be on a bit more, and we might be able to give you a better answer then.
All right, straight into yes, no, wait. And the first question is it the year for the Stars? Are they the team to fear? Yes, no, or wait?
I'm gonna have to say wait. I don't want to jump at the gun or premeditate anything, but I'm gonna say wait. But more of a yes than a no.
Okay, more of a yes than a no. What do you think, Kirby?
I'll also say waiting. I think what is most exciting about the start of the competition is just how close everyone is. Everyone's lost at least a game, and I think that positions it so nicely. It's a shorter season, stakes are higher. You can't trip and fall. You can only trip a little bit before you pick yourself up and keep going again. So we're saying waiting on the Stars. Okay,
fair enough. All right, another question. And again, similar to what we've been discussing, is it time to play more matches at the big stadiums, Kim?
I would say yes. I think this year we only play 1. I don't think you need to play them all at big stadiums. I think you could probably push that to 2 or 3 a season. 2 or 3 out of 10, I think, is a pretty good number.
What do you reckon, Kirby?
Without sounding like a broken record, I fully agree. Yes is the answer, but not 100% yet.
You've experienced with 100 where the women and the men play and they make it a big occasion. Do you see that as something, I know it has been trialled here in Australia, that might go back to that sort of format again at one point? Do you like that concept?
Potentially. I think, based on the Future Tours program that just came out, I know they spoke about having kind of a free window for WBBL. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think, would the players like it to happen? I think so. And particularly for the girls who've gone over and played in 100, or the girls who are old enough to remember the doubleheaders here a couple of years ago. I just think it creates a real buzz when there's 2 teams playing on one day in the same place. I just think, it's often spoken about two teams, one club, with the men and the women, but it's quite hard to kind of have that mentality when they're playing. We're playing like at the moment we're playing for the Melbourne Stars and the Victorian men are playing as well. It's kind of hard to have that mentality. I think, as I said, I think the players would like to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a great point. The schedule makes it so hard, and that's the frustrating part about it, really, but there's not much we can do about it. All right, Shmitri Mandanar, the question is, can she bring the Strikers back into finals contention? Kirby, I'll start with you on this one.
I'm saying waiting. I think the success of the Strikers has been built more so from the performance of their domestic depth than necessarily their superstars. So is Shmitty outstanding? Absolutely. Will she do that off her own bat? No. Kim?
I think that's a really good answer. And I'm going to say waiting also with Kirby. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Gee, agreeing too much here. Reece McKenna can be the Stars MVP this year. We saw some extraordinary things from her at the start of the tournament. Could she be the MVP?
I'm going to say waiting again. I think she is very, very good. I think we have kind of seen it in Victoria for probably the last 18 months. Talked her up, like how good she is, which she obviously is incredible, but haven't probably seen it until now. And I think with our bowling depth, probably potentially might not see her bowl her 4 hours every game. And hopefully with her batting, 6 or 7, she won't be required with the bat every time. So I'm going to say waiting. Having said that, in years to come, absolutely yes.
All right. Kirby?
I'm going to be a bit more bold and say no, because I think that's what Kimmy G is actually saying, but she's being kind.
Fair enough.
Not yet. There's been so much chat around her for a couple of years now, and she is so exciting. I think the role, in order to win an MVP, you think about the likes of an Amelia Kerr, for example, last couple of years at the Heat, where you're bowling your 4 overs, you're batting up the top, you have a key role in games. It's genuinely a proposition of maths and votes and your capacity to contribute. So not yet for Reece, but it won't be far away.
All right. That is yes, no, wait for this week on The Surge. We'll take a break and come back with more. Kim Garth, our special guest from the Melbourne Stars.
I was in Hawaii with my partner for a holiday in the off-season and got really sick and unfortunately had a stroke. I was in hospital for 93 days. Had to learn how to walk again, had a breathing tube in, so had to learn how to eat and swallow again. It was pretty full on, but we're here to tell a story and I'm just so grateful to be here. I've had so much amazing support around me.
This is The Surge. Our special guest is Kim Garth from the Melbourne Stars, Adam White and also Kirby Short with you. Caught my eye from the week. Well, it has to be what we saw with Josie Dooley back with the Renegades at Junction Oval. And Kirby, you spoke to her as part of the coverage. It was very special to see such a popular member of not only the Renegades but of Australian cricket back at a place that she loves so much.
Yeah, she is so fond of the Renegades and the Renegades are so fond of Josie Dooley. They're a special group, and I think part of the reason that she is where she is at an incredible stage of her rehab is a consequence of the quality of humans around her, and in no small part to some of her South Australian and Renegades teammates for sure.
And we also saw the Alanas, which is cricket's version of the Swifties, and then Phoebe Litchfield, who was caught dancing in the sheds. Now, Kim, what I don't understand is that don't the players know that there are cameras always on them?
You would think so by now, yes. Phoebes is a real character, though. I think with how much energy she brings to the group, it's never going to be long before you catch her on camera doing something something silly or funny. But you would think so, but no.
All right, we're going to finish the show with quick singles, which is just a few of the issues that we didn't cover off earlier on in the program. Why aren't we talking about the Thunder? They've started the season well. Are they a team that you're a little bit concerned about when you see what they're doing to start the tournament?
Yeah, I think so. I think they probably go under the radar a little bit, as you've pointed out, Thunder, but I think they have done in previous years. And a good question as to why, I'm not too sure. I think, like a lot of the teams, they have a really good list. Obviously, Phoebe Litchfield, very dynamic player. We all know what she can do and how good she is. But I think now with the addition of Georgia Vall, I think it probably takes a bit of pressure off Phoebes. And then obviously having Heather Knight in that middle order, just to kind of steady the ship and just that bit of experience in the middle order. And she knows how to win games, and I think it's really shown. And look, they are a very good side, and definitely I can't see why they wouldn't be in contention. I don't think we play them until the back half of the season, so certainly not looking forward to bowling to those few players. But they're a very good side.
Now, some news that it has just happened recently in the Big Bash is, from a men's point of view, is David Warner, who is now going to be the captain of the Thunder. The ban's been lifted. I'm interested, Kirby, again, with your captaincy hat on. What do you think we'll get from David Warner as a captain?
Yeah, it's really interesting. He sort of spoke about, when he was interviewed about it, the fondness that he has for the club and looking forward to the fact that he can contribute for the whole season. We know that the Australian contracted players, particularly in the men's game, it's so difficult for them to be available for all of it. So my answer is I'm not totally sure. I think there's a really interesting challenge he's got in stepping back into that leadership role, and maybe even in this new phase of his career, he actually gets to redefine perhaps what leadership looks like for Dave Warner.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Now, I want to finish with Alana King. She's one of my favourite cricketers, Kim, and I know you know her very well. She took a 5-wicket haul for the first time the other night. She's belting the ball when she bats as well. Do we fully appreciate how good she is from the outside? You're on the inside.
Potentially not. I think King's control with the ball is just incredible. She's very skillful and a very good T20 bowler. I think she bowls flat. She's very hard to get under, attacks the stumps, doesn't leave the stumps a lot. And I think certainly an area that is underestimated, I think, is her batting. She comes in at the back end and just plays that finisher role very well.
When it comes to spinners here in Australia, and particularly leg spinners, we've got Georgia Wareham as well as Alana King. I'm fascinated in the difference between the two of them. When you face both of them, what are the things that sort of stand out being different for when you're facing one versus the other?
I think Wolfie probably gets a bit more traditional leg spin. I think she probably gets a bit more flight in the ball. And as I said before, Kingy's probably a bit more flat and into the wicket. Both very good bowlers. Very lucky that we have such good leg spinning stocks in the country. I think they are both very different bowlers, but both have obviously been very successful in this WBBL and for Australia as well. So I think as well it's really good that I think they both just make each other better. Sometimes we obviously do play two leggies, but a lot of the time there is only room for one of them, and I think that competition between those two is, it's really cool.
All right, before we let you go, Kim, this is a big opportunity for you here because you've got to pump up the big game between the Stars and the Renegades. It's at the MCG, November 15, 7:15 start. You get your tickets at bigbash.com.au or via the Big Bash app. Why should the fans turn up and watch you play? The green versus red, Stars versus Renegades.
I think this year, hopefully, I can't imagine. I don't think it's mathematically possible that we're not in contention for finals. But
a good start.
Last year, I think at the time of the season that it was, I think both teams weren't in contention of making finals. And I think this year both teams are much improved, but also have a real crack at making finals. I just think it's going to be a really good game. I think both teams playing a really exciting brand of cricket, probably more so than ever, and I think it's going to make for some really, really good cricket.
November 15, it's a Friday night, 7:15 start. That's where you've got to be. You've got to be at the MCG watching Kim do her stuff. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it, and good luck for the rest of the year. Hope it all continues to go the way it's going at the moment.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me.
Kim Garth, star from the Melbourne Stars, and Kirby all the way down in Tasmania. Thank you for being part of the program yet again. Enjoy the cricket, and we'll do it all again soon.
Thank you, Whitey. Great job, Kimmy G.
Kirby Short joining us on The Surge. We hope you've enjoyed our second episode, and we'll do it all again next week. We'll catch you then.